Okay, yeah, it is running. I'm always not really sure about using my laptop for recordings because it's not that clear when it starts. But anyway, on. Thought something a bit different than the D&D updates. Thought I'd go with showing you all the role-playing games that I have, like where I get this feeling of reasonable knowledge to talk about role-playing games on a public forum. So, how about we just go through all the ones I have and have played with a very short review. Very short. Let's go. So, in terms of the PDF ones, so the ones I don't have in physical copies, I'll just do a quick run. So I've got Mutants and Masterminds 3rd edition. You played that. It's a superhero, supervillain, tabletop role-playing game set in the real world where you can be whatever you want. I've played that multiple times as a player. I've run it twice as a GM. Great system, nice and simple. Next, Continuum with its expansion Narcissist. Continuum, complicated as all hell. I have run it once and it went to hell. It just didn't work for me. It's so open world, so complicated. Well, the system's actually quite simple because the rules and mechanics have to be so open for the players to do whatever they want. Because it's a time travel RPG, and it's not time travel like Doctor Who, where you have to get into a time machine, or same with like Back to the Future. You are the time machine. The player characters are the time machine. They can just go, bip, I'm a year in the future or a year in the past. I've also travelled a mile in any direction, and that recovers after a long rest. Done. It's complicated. As a player character, with the GM I had, absolutely amazing. One of my longest running RPGs, one of my all-time favourite characters. Just incredible. Might tell a story about that sometime. But then on to another series I really like, World of Darkness. Anyone who knows World of Darkness knows it's one of the most longest running RPGs alongside Dungeons and Dragons. It is a beautifully simplistic system, similar in mechanics to Shadowrun, but using a D10 system where the number of successes equals whether you succeed great or fail. And in that, the rules are nice and simple because they also released a lot of expansions. Now, in my life, I've had probably most of the games. So, the ones I still have, I've got Princess the Hopeful, which I've played as a player character, not as a GM, and that's a fun system. It uses the standard system, but it's sort of a magical girl anime. You don't have to play a girl. I chose not to. Some of the other players did, and it was like a fantasy setting and fairy tales, and it was so much fun. That was actually run by my wife for quite some time with just me as a player character to get her into GMing, and then there's a one-shot session, which didn't go so well, but that's because we had a lot of people who weren't really sure about what the system was and what to expect out of it, so no fault there. The other one I've got is Vampire the Requiem, which, if you know Vampire the Masquerade, which at time of release the video game hasn't come out yet, but will come out soon, I think. I'm really out of line on RPG video games, but doesn't matter. Same basic mechanics as World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade, just slightly different setting. The Requiem is a different type of court intrigue, focusing a lot more on the secret orders than it does the families. Great system, beautiful system. The other systems within World of Darkness, I'm sure everyone's heard of. Obviously, Vampire the Masquerade. You've also got Werewolf, Changeling, Slayer, Promethean. Just hundreds. I think there's also Angel or Demon, something like that. Just so many settings. So versatile as a system. Definitely recommend for anyone who's looking for a new system. Next, in terms of my D&D rulebooks, in PDF, I have, of course, got the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st Edition, which I am currently running with my main party. I have sorted out getting physical just printouts, to be honest, of the documents, because trying to get the actual rulebooks nowadays is like plucking hen's teeth. I don't think Wizards of the Coast are publishing them anymore, so it's only second-hand copies, and they come up next to no time. So I am looking for actual physical copies of at least the core 3. I'd love to get Unearthed Arcana and the Artificer book as well, but we shall see. I also have the Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 World of Warcraft variation, which I played as a player character with one of my current players, who me and him tend to swap which of us is the dungeon master or games master depending on setting, and that was fun. That was quite fun. I played 2 separate characters in that. I started out as a necromancer cleric who was lawful evil, and due to the leveling up eventually went chaotic evil, so he betrayed the party. Me and the GM had been discussing this for a while, and then I brought in my secondary character, who was a troll shaman. So I always play healer. I almost always play healer. Troll shaman was way more fun, I have to say. Less conniving, less weird stuff going on. Just basically smoked a load of weed and healed everyone. Absolutely hilarious. I don't have the rulebook on this. I used to have the physical rulebook. I don't know what happened to it. I've moved house so many times in the last few years. Things have gotten lost, missing. It happens. I might try and get the physical copy of the book again because it was quite fun. The Pathfinder system. I did play Pathfinder once, and I had a lot of fun with it. The guy was running a evil setting, so everyone had to be an evil character. And I wanted to roll the paladin for ages, so I took a look at the system, and Pathfinder has an anti-paladin class, and I was like, having that. So I've still got the character for that whenever I want to run it, and it's a lot of fun. He actually did that as a homebrew setting in the Homestuck universe, so instead of the standard races, he gave us the blood colours and gave the stats based on that. That was so much fun. Slay Industries. Currently playing Slay Industries with my older brother, who's the GM, alongside my wife and my friend, who's actually the bard in my Dungeons & Dragons campaign. It's a dark setting. It's a dark, very serious setting with enough weird stuff to keep you laughing and guessing. So it's a very simple system in terms of how the mechanics run, but if someone wants to run it, you've got to be really mathematically minded, which is perfect for my older brother because he's fantastic when it comes down to maths. I have tried to run it a couple of times, but I'm not as quick on the maths to run it. So I'd recommend really going through that if you want to have a go at it, and you really got to memorize a lot of stuff if you want to run it effectively. But good system, good game. And last of my PDFs, I have Pokemon the tabletop role-playing game. Fun, good, very, very slow as a system. It uses the D&D 3.5 rolling mechanics, so it's all D20s. And then it uses a variation of the stats based on the Wikipedia page for competitive Pokemon playing, Bulbapedia. So the system works and it is fun. I'd personally recommend not having a party larger than 2, because I had a party of 2 and it was still really slow. It's a very, very slow system because combat can take a while anyway in any role-playing game, especially Dungeons & Dragons, because it's such a it's so many different roles to make. Then if you bring in the Pokemon setting where you're basically going to have like a 3-on-3 fight, you're having 3 one-on-one fights back to back, it makes it very slow. But it's good. It's good and it's fun. It's good. If you can roll a story out and you can get it quick, it's a fantastic setting. Okay, now to the physical books. First we have Shadow Sword and Spell. So I've run this a couple of times for one-shots. It's quite fun. You can see it's just a small book. I picked this up in a second-hand bookshop for like £2, if that. Setting, standard high fantasy setting. Everything in it works as it should. It's very, very simple to understand, very, very simple to run, very quick to learn. One thing that's quite cool about it, though, if you choose to play a spellcaster, you have to roll on an insanity chart. If you fail, you lose a point of like intelligence or wisdom. Now that doesn't affect your actual casting ability. In fact, it makes it more powerful. But the more insanity points you have, the harder it is to cast a spell. No, the easier it is to cast a spell, but the harder it is to pass your intelligence or wisdom roll after casting the spell. And once your character hits, I think their insanity points hit the same as their intelligence points, then they kind of just explode into an awful abomination and kill the party. So, recommend not playing mage. Or if you do play mage, do it sparingly. Okay, big beefy bastard. Through the Breach. Through the Breach. This is probably the biggest single tabletop role-playing game manual I have. And if you know about Malifaux, you might know about this. This is the Malifaux tabletop role-playing game. Malifaux is basically a steampunk setting where a load of people from Victorian England go through a breach between universes, and they find a city, or they find an area and then they build a city, and it's all being controlled by different factions, and you play as one of the factions in the skirmish game. And in this, you can be in one of those factions, you can be unaffiliated. What is fantastic about this system, though, is it does not use dice. It uses cards. And you can use a standard deck of playing cards, but you can also get a specific tarot deck for the game. Basically, the way the system works is that you have a rank in your skill, and all skills start at 13, so King. And basically, the better you get at it, the lower the number gets. So instead of increasing the number, you lower the number, and then you draw from the deck, and if the number is that or higher, you succeed. Notice there are modifiers as well that reduce the number, increase the number. It all goes through that. And basically, if you get the higher the number, the more likely you are to succeed. That said, if you also draw the same suit, it's a special pass. So if it's the same suit as the designated skill, I think like combat skills are all like spades, basically. It's been a while since I've run it, and it's been a while since I've read it, so I'm just going with what I remember. So I'm probably a bit rusty on that system. And basically, everyone at the table, including the GM, draws from the same deck. So you can really bugger someone by getting all of their suit that they need for their skill. If you get the same number and the same suit as the skill required, so let's say it's a 7 of spades, then booyah, you've critical pass. Ain't nothing stopping that. But it's a good system. It's a good, complicated system. If you like steampunk, I would recommend it. It's a good read. Okay, if anyone remembers my horror live stream from about a year ago, was it a year, 2 years ago? You'll remember this. My Little Pony, Tales of Equestria. Yes, this is a tabletop role-playing game for children, but the advantage of role-playing games and all games for children is that they can't play our games, but we can still play theirs. And it is a good system, nice and simple, nice and easy. It has to be for kids. The focus is more on storytelling than role-playing, and that's fine, because obviously if it's designed for kids, but as you can see with any role-playing game, with the right players, with the right group, you can adjust any system in any setting to what you want it to be, including turning a little girl's children's TV show into a horror story where 3 adult women get slaughtered by Baphomet. That was a good session. Okay, next, I've run this game, I want to say twice, never played it because I've never been a player character in it because I know the system too well. Paranoia. Anyone who knows what Paranoia is knows how much of a shit show this game is. You get 6 clones, 6 lives. You are, in this game particularly, you're a troubleshooter of a rank red, which means that your job is to ferret out mutants, communists, and anyone in a secret society. Every player character is a mutant, is in a secret society, and very well could be a communist. So, and everyone knows that. All the players know that. So there's a lot of PC infighting. You do not play this game for a long series of sessions. Listed things I've seen happen in this campaign. The entire party doing a Mexican standoff, and then a party member's a rival clone killing the guy that killed him, thus resulting in the new clone of the guy that killed him that he just killed with his clone shuttle popping out about 10 feet above him because he didn't die on the ground, he died in the air, and the clone arrives by basically massive bullet to where that player died, resulted in that player character then falling to his death. So he lost like 3 clones quick succession. Enclosed fight scenario. Player had started with a random grenade. Didn't know where he got it from, he just had it. Shouldn't have had it, should have been arrested or shot straight away. In this game, shot. And he threw that because they were in a firefight, everything was about to get fucked, and he lobs the hand grenade, and it turns out it's a mini nuke. Just destroys the entire party in one shot. There's a lot of things that go wrong. The best session of that I ever did was I actually co-GM'd with a guy who I've been playing for a long time. He was actually the GM for our Advanced Dungeons & Dragons campaign 1E back when I was in college. That was a lot of fun. We stayed up really late and drank way too much, but it was a good session. Now we are into some of my absolute favourites. Starting with one of my favourite games to run, especially for one-shots, I am working on a longer run game of this one for my Slay Industries party, so I'll be GMing for my brother, which should be interesting. He's the guy who introduced me to role-playing games. All Flesh Must Be Eaten. It's a zombie apocalypse tabletop role-playing game, and they hold no punches, and I love it. If you like Left 4 Dead, I recommend this as a tabletop role-playing game. It is very, very similar. There are rules for making your own zombies. There are rules for making your own guns. There are even rules if you want to allow it in a party for party members to have magic. Basically, ruling is when the zombie virus hit the air, it unlocked all these latent potentials in people who were already connected to the other side, as it were. So priests who believe, goth chicks, yeah, they're all in there as people who can use magic. I think there's also techie guy. There's an example of a character in here who's a tech who can use magic. So quick look. Yeah, you got a goth chick who is an inspired. You've got a priest who's inspired. That might be it. Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, you've got norms and survivors. Norms start with more equipment. Survivors start with more stats. Good luck surviving. There is the newest addition to my collection, Dungeons & Dragons 5e Dungeon Master's Guide. Ordered this month because I am planning on running a D&D 5e campaign after my Advanced D&D 1e session. 1e campaign is finished, because I'm going to be generating the world based on the events that happen within the story. There's not much to tell. Everyone knows Dungeons & Dragons 5e at this point. If you don't, go watch Critical Role. They can explain it much better than me, and more fun. Speaking of more fun, very, very fun RPG. Quick, very easy, good for one-shots, good for long sessions. Maids. You play as a maid, or a footman. I allow footman, but some people only allow maids. And your character, you get no choice in who and what they are. There are tables for just... the whole book is tables. And there is everything in here, so you can do a really lovely, light-hearted RPG, you can do a dark one like Black Butler, or you can go full-blown 18-plus rated doujin maid hentai, if you want to. But check in with your players before you start that, and check with your GM if he's okay with that. List of things I've seen to happen in the games is... I'm kind of running a short campaign with that, with a lot of my friends. Just a couple hours, just jump into maids, just see what happens. List of things that have happened. Wife is playing a character who's currently convinced that there is a man named Kevin in the house that must be protected at all costs. One character... one of the house butlers, the head maid, she keeps flirting with my wife's character until the point where she basically turned up and found one of the players unconscious due to narcolepsy in the toilet with his pants down, and decided she was going to have her wicked way with him. So the list of things that happen just get a bit spoopy, and it's quite fun. And honestly, the only sessions I've run so far is run a tea shop, clean the dining room, and yeah, there was an art heist during... basically, they had to clean the master's suite and wound up with a thief trying to break in to steal something. This is where the Kevin thing started. And last but not least, where it all started for me, not with Dungeons & Dragons 1E, RuneQuest. If you know anything about RuneQuest, then you are a legend. If you know anything about RuneQuest 3rd Edition, which is specifically this one, you are even more of a legend. After RuneQuest 3rd Edition, they started to go a bit weird, started adding feats like in Dungeons & Dragons, but the system doesn't work for it very well. RuneQuest runs on a percentile system where the whole point is it's all about skills. It's not about stats. Your stats help generate your skills, but you don't use your stats to actually roll anything like saving throws. Instead, everything is based on what skills you have, and the list of skills is just endless. I think I counted once, there's about 48 baseline skills, possibly a little bit more than that if you include all the weapon skills, and then the inclusion just gets more and more and more and more, and you can start adding skills, you can homebrew skills, you can create skill specializations. It's just a really fun... It's more middle fantasy than high fantasy because the magic works more on a very technical basis because you're using MP rather than spell slots, so you're working that in a similar way as stamina. But that is the setting, and that is, for me, is where role-playing started, and that will always be my favourite setting. So, I hope you like this rundown of all the role-playing games that I own. These are not all the role-playing games I've also played. That list is even longer, so I'm not going to go into it, to be honest. I'm not saying that me having a lot of books makes me good at GMing. I am not saying that you should listen to me because I have a lot of books that I've collected over the years. I am definitely not saying that I'm an expert on anything to do with role-playing games or GMing. I am just showing you the gamut of what I have. All I'm saying is that this is the experience that I have, and I hope I can give any of this enjoyment and any of my love of tabletop role-playing games and games in general to you guys. So please, watch my videos, like and subscribe, tell me if you'd like to see me review any games, or just tell me what you'd like to see from these videos. Me, I'm mostly going to be focusing on doing updates and summaries after sessions, doing a bit of a criticism of Advanced D&D 1E, telling you how the planning process is going. That is kind of my main focus at the moment, because I just don't have the time or the capacity or the capability to do the Let's Plays of the board games anymore. I just can't manage it, I'm afraid. Between my work, between my education, I just can't do it. So instead, these videos are a lot easier for me to create. I enjoy these a lot more because there's a lot less stress behind them, and I can churn them out a hell of a lot quicker. So, please, comment, like, subscribe, and just later. Bye.